Hey guys, welcome back. Hope you're all doing awesome. Today we're jumping into more stories about entitled people, crazy people, and everything in between. So let's begin. Drive up a closed road? I'll make it so you can't get out. This happened many years ago during archery elk season in the Pacific Northwest. The area I would hunt in always had logging going on, but it's a big area and elk don't seem to care. Loggers had pushed a road in towards my favorite ridge. The road was closed to vehicles and had a big barricade and sign across it. Perfect. I had a quiet, easy way to cover the couple of miles into my hunting area. I'm over a mile in, padding along in the dust, when I hear a vehicle. Sure enough, a pickup truck with guys in the back holding bows drive by. They didn't see me because I had faded back into the timber, but I saw them. They were also talking loudly. Elk might not be bothered by the vehicle, but the voices would make them leave the area. They had moved the barricade to drive up a closed road and make a lot of noise, chasing the elk away. I decided to hunt another area, so headed back to my truck. The barricade had been moved, but was too heavy for me to put back. They would have just moved it again anyway. But there was a road grader parked nearby, and I have some experience with this stuff. Did you know back then the keys were pretty generic? I had keys in my truck, and sure enough, the Caterpillar key I had worked in the Caterpillar grader. So I parked it across the road, locked it up, and left. Since this was on a 3-day weekend, they had to wait a while to be let out, and hopefully fined for their actions. Ex-landlord spotted opening my mail. I enjoyed a royal last laugh. Years ago in the UK, I had to move house as the landlord was the worst. I changed my address as soon as my new place was confirmed, and moved out almost a month before I had to as rent was paid up. A lot of mail wasn't getting to the new place, and a friendly ex-neighbor tipped me off that Jeff, ex-landlord, was there almost every day. And the first thing he'd do after opening the front door was bend down and pick up my mail and freaking open it with his greasy little hands and have a good snoop. Went to the post office to see what they could do, and Royal Mail offered a forwarding service that they set up for me to go to my new address. It was then that I had a light bulb moment. Once the forwarding service was working, I sent a first-class letter to myself at my old address, marked confidential, do not forward. Inside it was a card saying, "This is actually for you, Jeff," with a drawing of a large up yours middle finger. I can't be sure because of fuzzy memory, but knowing me, there would probably have been at least one phallus, probably embarrassingly many more. I am slightly more mature these days, but some 15 to 20 years after that experience, if something similar were to happen again, I'd be mighty tempted. Been living in Canada for years now, and I just told someone this story that until now I'd almost forgotten. I'm delighted to today discover that Canada Post offers the same forwarding service. And someone in the comments chimed in with a similar story. About 15 years ago I was missing mail. Orders weren't showing up and I was being told the items had been delivered. No ring cams in those days, so it was a struggle finding the culprit. One Saturday I was home and saw the mail truck pull up. I watched the guy drop a large envelope on my stoop. It was a 16-month Siamese cat wall calendar. I was getting ready to go down the steps to grab my mail when I saw this little kid dash across the road. I'd say 8 years old, come to my stoop, pick up my calendar, and then dash back across the road to an apartment complex. I was pissed. I ran across the street and lo and behold, found the little crap in the courtyard, paging through my cat calendar. "Excuse me, that's mine," I said. The kid looked up at me and replied, "No, it's not, it's mine." Lucky for me, the wrapping with my address was at his feet. I picked it up and told him I was calling the police. He began screaming, "Mom!" as loud as he could, and sure enough, here comes Mom. She was dripping attitude and began the conversation by asking me why I was, quote, hitting on her son. At that point, I knew the cops needed to be involved. I quickly explained that her son had been stealing my mail, and the calendar was the final straw. She told me, "How do I know you didn't give him that calendar?" It was insane. I called the cops. When the cops arrived, the one guy gave the kid a very stern lecture on how it was against the law to steal mail, and he could go to juvenile hall. I got my calendar back, but never anything else that was taken. The woman kept telling the cops that I had tried to touch her kid, and the kid said I had given him my mail as a gift. I got a P.O. box after that crap went down. I realized very quickly I never should have chased that kid down, or thought his mother would want to teach her kid a lesson about stealing. She enabled him to be a little ass, and had no problem making such a ruthless accusation against me. She would have ruined my life to protect her cat calendar thieving son. I've upgraded to first class. Background: airline captain commuting to work, purchased a full fare first class ticket to get there. Lived in Atlanta at the time, domiciled in Houston, and commuted. Normally you could get a jump seat in the cockpit, but on this auspicious day that was already taken. Pass riding wasn't an option because there were no seats in coach, and only one in first. Pass riders can be bumped for fare-paying passengers, and I needed to get to work, so I plunked down my credit card and bought the last seat in first. Boarding has occurred, and I am peacefully in my seat waiting for pushback. An entitled woman says, "You are sitting in my seat. You'll need to move right now." I check my boarding pass and say, "Nope, this is my seat. Not going to happen. Sorry." "You're an employee. You're sitting in my seat. Move now." "May I see your boarding pass?" Clearly, there has been some mistake. "You may not see my boarding pass. I showed that when I boarded. I've upgraded to first class. Now move." "You'll need to resolve this with the flight crew. I'm a passenger." Entitled woman stomps off resembling an irritated Dolores Umbridge and returns with the flight attendant. The flight attendant says, "Good morning, Captain. May I see your boarding pass?" "Sure thing," I said, and I show the boarding pass. "Ma'am, that's his seat. He paid for it," said the attendant. "Well then throw him off, dear. I've upgraded to first class, and that is now my seat." "I'll need to see your boarding pass, ma'am." "You will not. I showed it when I boarded. I've upgraded to first class." "How did you upgrade to first class?" the attendant asked. "I upgraded to first class. I'm more important than an employee. Now get him out of my seat." Someone has called the cockpit and the captain has left the flight deck to deal with this. The captain says, "Ma'am, I'm Captain Wallaby. I've just spoken with the gate agent. We certainly apologize for this awkward situation. The agent has corrected your paperwork and has a voucher for future travel for you as well. Please go fetch your new boarding pass and your voucher and we'll be on our way." The entitled woman departs up the jetway, a triumphant smile on her face. The captain turns to the flight attendant and says, "Prepare the doors for departure." The doors close. The captain returns to the flight deck, and as we push back from the gate, I can see the entitled woman pounding on the glass next to the jetway. It was a nice ride to Houston. The coffee was wonderful. I like the way that the captain worded this when he was talking to the woman. It seems to have been worded just right to let her know that the situation has been worked out, but in no way did he actually say that she was staying on the flight, that she'll have to be taking a different one. I can imagine it can be safer and more efficient for an airline to try to deal with things in this way, just to get her off the plane and have the airport deal with her, rather than it devolving into a big argument and her refusing to get off, and then leading to security having to get on and causing delays and whatnot. At least that's how I interpret what the flight crew was probably thinking. Park in my spot? Have fun looking for your car. When my mom was in her 20s, she was living in a small apartment in the city near her university. Finding parking spots in cities is extremely difficult and annoying. So when my mom got the offer by her landlord to rent a parking spot right by her building, she gladly took him up on it. It was the type of deal where you'd pay for the spot, and then they'd put your license plate in front of it so that others would know it was a designated and paid-for spot. Everything went well for a while, and my mom was very happy with her spot until one day some jerk decided to park their car, a rather small one, I don't know what make or model, in my mom's spot. She let this go on for a few days because she thought this person would stop eventually, but after having to drive around town looking for a parking spot night after night, she decided it needs to stop. She contacted her landlord and told him about the issue. Unfortunately, he said he was not responsible for actual availability of those spots, and thus not authorized to do anything about it. Although my mom's theory was that he just didn't care as long as he got his money. He advised her that if she wanted to do something about it, all she could do was have the jerk's car towed. However, to do that, my mom would have had to pay the towing fee in advance, and only later would have been able to make the jerk pay the costs, on the condition she gives the towing company the name and address of the person. The problem was that even if my mom had had their contact info, which she didn't, she wasn't able to advance that fee and still have enough money left for rent and other living costs. My mom decided that she couldn't let this go on, and so she called her then-boyfriend and 2 of his friends to help her with their plan. The next time that jerk parked the little car in my mom's spot, they all went down to the parking lot and made sure no one was around to see. They then started lifting and carrying the car by doing swinging and bouncing motions and lifting it up on the count of 3, moving it just a few inches at a time. After a few hours of doing this, they had successfully moved the jerk's car to the center of the parking lot. Not in anyone's spot, just on the little road in the parking lot. My mom saw a policeman giving the car a ticket later that day, which isn't too much, but that jerk sure as hell never parked in my mom's spot again. Entitled mother got mad at the zoo because my boyfriend refused to fake kidnapping her kid. Yes, it is as wild as the title sounds. Me and my boyfriend were at the zoo enjoying our day, as we have some very rare sunshine in England. It was packed with screaming kids and we were standing at the lion cage. There was a kid screaming because no one could see the lions, and the kid's mother turned around and said to the child, "If you don't stop crying, that scary bad man next to you is going to kidnap you and take you away, and you will never see anyone you love again." Like, what the hell? I overheard this and started laughing because I was so confused. My boyfriend just ignored it, and then the woman tapped him and said, "Go on, tell her that you will take her away if she doesn't stop crying." When my boyfriend said no, she got mad at us, said we are a selfish couple and it's clear we don't have kids of our own, or else we would know what it's like and help her. She then proceeded to call us more names before grabbing the kid and storming off. What is wrong with some people, honestly? As if we would pretend to kidnap a child. Gender reveal party where soon-to-be mom thinks she's entitled to a boy. I went to the worst gender reveal party with a soon-to-be mom that thinks she's entitled to a boy. I'm still shocked and so angry thinking about what her baby will have to go through. When she found out she was having a girl, she literally began sobbing, and when her boyfriend tried to comfort her, she told him not to touch her and she stormed away. When she came back, she was trying not to cry and kept saying she didn't want to think about it or else she'd cry more. She later made a remark about how there's nothing she can do because she's stuck with it now. I get if you want a boy or a girl, but if you feel that strongly about it, then you shouldn't have made a public gender reveal party. Also, it's insane she's so upset she couldn't hold it together until she was in private. Also, she referred to her baby as it, after finding out it's a girl. Does she hate girls that much? My hands are shaking, I feel so bad for that baby girl. Yeah, honestly, why would you even have a gender reveal party if you're gonna react that way when it's a gender you don't want? And someone like this probably shouldn't even be having a kid in the first place. If they're that dead set on one gender, it's probably going to affect how they treat the kid growing up. And that's going to be all for today, guys. Thank you for watching, I appreciate it. If you enjoyed, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. So take care and I'll see you next time.